glad that you're here tonight. If you've not put in your offering, there it is. I had to put it on my outline so I'd remember to ask for it. I always forgot. All right, we always start off with our joys and concerns, meaning our request. Our request. So if you have anything you'd like us to pray for, would you? Now's the time. Good. Hey there, Barbara. Come on in. Thank you, Becky. Help me, I can see Robert. Are you going to be okay back there, Barbara? Can you hear me okay? Okay. If you can't, and I'll wave back. Yes. Okay. Ooh, okay. Okay. Sandy Jacobs is in the hospital. It is not COVID. It's um, Fred. No, Fred's wife. Okay. Right. Okay. Um, okay. Hospital, not COVID. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Vertigo. Okay. Oh, referral. Okay. All right. We'll pray for Lisa. Yes. Okay. The elder family, uh, Butch's wife Peggy passed away. Hmm. Okay. All right. Jeff Franklin, and also, pardon me. Yeah. Is it Franklin? Is that right? Franklin. Okay. The Jeff Franklin family, he passed away, and also the Van Pelt family, Dad's neighbor passed away. His obituary was in today's paper too. Um, okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a good place to be. Um, the Beemans have COVID, and the Burroughses are in quarantine because they may have been exposed. So pray for them. And Natasha's brother Nathan definitely tested positive. So, yeah, I'm sure it's everywhere. We have lots and lots of people. Okay. Her name's Misty. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And of course, you have things on your heart, I'm sure, that are concerns as well, and probably some joys, and we thank God for that too. Let's pray. Jesus, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts that we can be here. We thank you that the rain has slacked off some, and we were able to arrive here safely and be here in this nice, warm ark of safety that you have granted us called a church, and we thank you for that. I pray that you'll be with us this evening as we look into your word. I thank you for each one that's here and their desire to be here and to learn more about you through your word. You know each need that's been discussed here, those that have lost loved ones, those that are dealing with COVID. We thank you for the negative results that we've had, the the good answers to prayer. We praise you for that and ask for your leading and guidance in each of these situations. You know, this one that's in the hospital that's not dealing with COVID, and that's a scary thing too. You know, those that are anticipating surgery next week, those that have undergone surgery today. I just thank you and praise you that you've been with each situation, that you will continue to do so. Now bless our time together. You promised to be here, and we thank you for that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, I cannot take credit for number 2 because I learned it from Beth Moore. She mentioned it in one of her Bible studies, but I did the math. So this graphic that you have there, God and I worked on that together. She had made the comment that Adam lived almost to the time of Noah. And being one of those people, I have to prove it. So there it is. Okay? Adam lived 930 years. Okay? And as each of the children were born, Seth was born when he was 130. He had his first child at 105. If you add them all up, Adam lived until Lamech, which was Noah's dad, was 56 years old. And the numbers are, to me, that is just totally amazing. But to me, that's God. Because he wanted to make sure that the history was known. Because sadly, God knew what was coming. And so Noah's daddy spent 56 years with great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa Adam. So based on the information, it's safe to say that Adam could have lived long enough to see his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. The numbers are there. What you want to do, how you want to believe them is up to you. But the numbers are there. And not just to see him, but to spend time with him 56 years. And by 56, Lamech is going to remember some things. What do you think Adam would have shared with all these generations? I guarantee the Garden of Eden was one of them. Yep. That's how we know how beautiful it was. What else? Surely he would have shared his boo-boo. Sadly, though, it didn't help. Because it says, number 7 says, sadly, as we will see in today's lesson, it did not help people from getting deeper and deeper into sin. At the end of chapter 5, we are introduced to a man who eventually becomes very famous. Who is that man? In Genesis 5:30. Noah. Yeah. Today we look at Noah's story. Now, a learning tool that we've often used to help organize student thoughts is called a Kwl chart. And we're going to fill out a Kwl chart. Now, K stands for know. What do you know or think you know about the story of Noah and the ark? Oh boy, we got a lot to fill in on the other side. Okay. No, God told Noah to build an ark. Okay. Got it. What else? Okay. This is the hardest part, keeping the kids under control while I load all this stuff. Okay. What else? Okay. Okay, that's good. All right, found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Okay. Okay. How about if I just put down one word? He persevered. How's that? Anything else? Go ahead.
How he constructed such a elaborate, such a humongous transportation ship for a flood.
I love that one on Facebook that talked about getting all the permits and everything. That was great. All right, well, let's get into it and see what we find out. True, but they were talking about if you had it in today's society. Yeah, if you had it in today's society. All right, so we're on the back of page 1, number 11. All right, we did that. According to Genesis 6:5, when the Lord looks over what he has created, what does he see? He saw the wickedness of the human race, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only on evil. All right? How does the Lord feel about this situation of the earth? He was grieved. Another translation says what? He regretted that he had made human beings on his earth, and his heart was what? Deeply troubled. What, Barbara? Filled with pain. You ever have a heart that's deeply troubled, filled with pain? You know how that is. Multiply it over and over and over and over and over again. What does the Lord decide to do in verse 7? Okay. And who else? Okay. And? Okay. All living things above the water. Animals, birds, things that crawl on the ground, and humans. Okay? Who finds favor in the eyes of the Lord? But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. What 3 words are used to describe Noah? Right? Oh, how? All right. He was righteous, blameless, and faithful. Okay? And he was a family man, because it says, and his family, he had 3 sons, and their names are Shem, Ham, and Japheth. All right? What does God tell Noah he is going to do in verse 13? All right. He's just going to put an end to all people. All right? What does God tell Noah's going to do in verse 14? Yeah. He says, make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Oh, yeah. He tells them a lot. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Now, if you turn your packet of papers over to the back of number 6, I looked and looked and looked to find a good diagram to compare. If you go to the Ark Encounter website, they have a wonderful graphic to show you the size of the ark. And I want to make sure one thing I clarify that's not in your notes. It was not a boat. I did not know that. A boat has a rudder or a steering wheel or some way to control it. The ark had nothing to control it but God. Okay? Which I did not know. It was an ark. It was not a boat. It was not a ship. Okay? But if you notice on the back of your paper there is a picture of the ark. Okay? The ark would have held 522 railroad stock cars. Okay? It was a football field and a half long. Okay? Which was 3 space shuttles, nose to tail, nose to tail, nose to tail. It was 50 feet tall, which is taller than a 4-story house. and it held 450 standard semi-trailers. It said that it held 250,000 sheep. Now, we know that elephants would take up a few of those spaces, as would giraffes and hippopotami and all those kind of things. Okay? So it held a lot. Okay? According to the Ark Encounter, it was near the maximum size known to be possible for a wooden vessel to operate, meaning God knew exactly what to build. I know we're not surprised at that. And the life-size Noah's Ark that's in Kentucky is the largest timber frame building in the world. So it just goes to show you what Noah and his sons were up against. And I'm going to put it out there right now. I guarantee the women had something to do with it too. Because you cannot build, I mean, let's face it, they had to cut down the timber and clear it. I guarantee the women, in addition to feeding the men, had their own jobs to do. Sadly, it just talks of, and it doesn't really mention Noah and his sons building it. We just know Noah couldn't have done it by himself. He had to have help. Okay? So, anyway, all right. So, and now we're on number 20 on page 2, on the back of page 1. In addition to telling Noah to build an ark, okay, we just talked about that. What does God provide? He provides the blueprint. Exactly what to make it out of, what to put in it, the pitch, and the size. How will all the life on the earth be destroyed according to verse 17? Okay. Floodwaters. What do you think Noah might have said about that? Chances are pretty good he doesn't have a clue what a flood is. Because there's been no rain to this point. The water has come up. The earth has been watered by underneath. It came up. He probably has absolutely no clue what floodwaters are. Okay? And what will God do for Noah and his family in 18? Okay. I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to do my part. You do your part. You build that ark, and I'll do my part, and I'm going to take care of you. I have found it most interesting, the order of the family. Did you notice the order of the family? Who's always mentioned first? Noah, right? Then who? Then who? His wife. And then finally, the sons' wives. Okay. And it's that way throughout the whole, every time they're mentioned, that's the order they're in. Just thought that was a note. I just thought that was interesting. In addition to his family, what is Noah to bring with him into the ark according to 19 and 20? Okay? Okay? That's 19. So 2 of all living creatures, male and female, and okay. Okay. So 2 of every animal, 2 of every bird, and 2 of every creature that moves along the ground. Okay? And what does Noah do? In 22. Okay. Noah did everything. And you know what? I missed something in 21. I totally missed it. What did he do? He said, tell him to bring in 21. And every kind of food that is to be eaten and stored away as food for you and for them. Now, you remember back in Genesis, what has God said they're allowed to eat right now? Exactly. They're vegetarians right now. They did not bring a barbecue with them. Okay? So they've got to bring enough plants and produce to feed themselves and 2 of every animal for however long it takes. Noah has no clue how long this is going to take. And yet he has to bring the provisions for everyone. Sorry, I missed that one. Now we added that one. So we said Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Now, your student book leaves us hanging high and dry there. Okay? I can't do that. so we're going to move on past the student book for a while. According to Genesis 7:1, why were Noah and his family able to go into the ark? Okay. Noah and his family were righteous. Okay? You were righteous in this generation, meaning right now, at this time, I find you to be righteous. Okay? What specific information concerning animals does God give Noah? In verse 2. Okay? 7 what? Okay. 7 pairs. How many times have we always heard he took 2 of every kind? Nope. For the clean animals, it was 7 pairs of clean animals. Now, this is what we talked about last week. The writer of this is writing it at a time when they understand exactly what clean animals are. And I found this awesome chart that I couldn't print off that had all the clean animals and all the unclean animals on it, and I'll get it for you one of these days. But if you really want to know, it's in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14:6. Or, I'm sorry, Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. And it lists them all. Okay? And one of the reasons they say that some were clean and some were unclean were that most of the unclean animals ate the clean animals or ate decayed animals. And it would not have been healthy for humans to have eaten those animals. And therefore, God said, don't eat them. It would not be good for you. And how often do we hear that pork is not good for you? Okay? But anyway. All right, so hang on there. But see, okay, let me explain. When he's talking about clean animals, the writer is over here in Moses. Moses was the one that noted all this. So he already knows what the clean and the unclean animals are. At Noah's time, there is no such thing. I mean, he probably would have spelled it out. You need to bring these animals. No, Moses just narrowed it down. Bring the clean and the unclean. And we talked about this last week, that it's sometimes difficult for writers. They all assume you know what they're talking about. Okay, it would have been nice to have had a few more details, but we don't, it doesn't really matter. You just told them to bring 7 pairs of clean animals, okay, a male and its mate, and then 1 pair of what kind of animals? In verse 2. Unclean. 7 pairs of clean animals, but only 1 pair of unclean animals, and then 7 pairs of what? Birds. He knows how often they fall out of the trees and things happen to them. He needed 7 pairs of birds to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. All right, number 28. The mention of these animals in this telling of Noah's cargo is an excellent example of the historian writing about things that would be commonly known to the people reading it as it was written. They understood what clean and unclean animals were. Okay, so he just narrowed it down. He said bring 7 pairs of clean animals and 1 pair of unclean animals. Why is Noah to bring the animals and birds onto the ark according to verse 3? To keep them alive and to replenish the earth. How long will it rain on the earth according to verse 4? Yeah. That was an assumption we had when we were kids. Oh, Noah was in the ark for 40 days and 40 nights. Oh, yeah. It's just rained for 40 days and 40 nights. I mean, it's been what? Maybe it hasn't even been 40 hours we've been having rain, and we're like, okay, Lord, this is enough rain. We're done with this. Okay? All right? And of course, like I said, they have never had rain before. So Noah's like, okay, 40 days and 40 nights of something I have no idea what it is. Okay, whatever you say. And that's what he said. Okay, God, whatever you say. Okay? What does Noah do in verse 5? There we go. He repeated again. And Noah did how much? All that the Lord commanded him. How old was Noah when the flood waters came on the earth? 6. years old. All right? Who entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood? According to verse 7. Okay, so there's your 4 and 7. Noah, his sons, his wife, meaning Noah's wife, and their son, or their wives. Okay, so there's 8 humans in the ark. Okay, now how about verse 8? Okay, so we've got humans, we've got pairs of clean, pairs of unclean, and animals. They're all in the ark. Okay, or they're all going to be in the ark. Okay? It is important that we take the time to notice a very important piece of information found in verse 9. How did the animals get to the ark? As, yep, God, wait a minute, do I have male and female? Came to Noah. The animals came to Noah. Go back and look at Genesis 6:20. When God is establishing his covenant with Noah, what had he told Noah would happen concerning the animals? They will come to you. God knew Noah and his working crew had enough to do to build the ark. They did not have to be worried about going out and bringing in the animals. God took care of it. All he had to do was whisper to the animals, come on, you need to come with me. And they followed him. Okay? Isn't it interesting that the animals were willing to listen to the voice of the Lord and to go to safety when the people of that day were not? And I had to throw this in because, of course, we read the book, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Maybe it is true that all dogs and animals do go to heaven. Maybe they listen. Jump ahead to verse 16. Who closes the doors of the ark? The Lord. All of them are in. He's got them all in where he wants them. He closes the door. He sets the time. Before we proceed, I need to make an apology and a clarification. I gave inaccurate information. The Jewish calendar does indeed have 12 months. In fact, at times it has 13 months. The difference between our calendar and theirs is not in the number of months, but in the number of days in each month. In the Jewish calendar, each month has either 29 or 30 days. Therefore, since the dates for special days and feasts are based on the day of the month and not a specific day of the year, the dates vary from year to year. As you'll see, it happened on the first or 17th day of the second month. Okay? And with number of days, that would change on a calendar. And I want to get you a list of all those months, too, and so on. Like our Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday of November, that date changes every year. It's not the same. So that is the way the Jewish calendar is. For the first 4 chapters of Genesis, we were given a timeline with no times. We have no idea how long a day lasted. But in Genesis 7, we are finally given some events complete with times. On what day and month did the floodgates of heaven open according to verse 11? The 17th day of the second month. You might want to write that down. That's important. If I tell the kids, you might want to write that down. 17th day of the second month. How long did the rain fall on the earth? 40 days and 40 nights. You can imagine, just with the amount of rain we have sometimes, how much it just kept raining. As the flood kept coming, what happened to the ark in 17 and 18? Yep, the ark just kept going up and up. Now, Stop and think. I don't know if they have light in the ark. The windows have to be closed, because if not, they'll get rain in the ark. We have no idea. They've never felt this rising of the water in an enclosed space with all these animals making all these noises, because they have no clue what's happening. All right? We're talking major whoa here. All right? What happened to the mountains in 19 and 20? The mountains were even covered. Now, I forgot to look up how high Mount Everest is. You know off the top of your head, anybody? I know that Mount McKinley is 20,230 feet. Okay, that's a lot of water. What? Mount McKinley is 30,000. Yeah, if Mount McKinley's 20,000. Yeah, yeah. All right? And to every living thing, according to 21 and to 23. Everything died. Notice the different ways it says it. Every living thing on land perished. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. 29,000 is Mount Everest? Okay, thank you. Mount Everest is 29,000 feet. So, and that's where you can't breathe and all that, you're up there. Okay? And it was all covered with water. Okay? Every living thing is wiped out, perished, gone, dead. All right? And what happened to Noah and those with him in the ark, according to verse 23? Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. All right? How long did the waters flood the earth? 150 days. So we're already at 190 days. We've got 40 days, 40 nights of rain, 150 days of flood waters. Okay? So Noah and his family and all the animals are being tossed about and have no idea what is going on around them. Sound familiar? Ever feel like you're being tossed about and have absolutely no idea what's going on? But, and if you know anything about our class, but's our favorite word. All right? But Genesis chapter 8 begins with one of my favorite words. What does it say? But what? God remembered Noah. He didn't leave him alone in that ark, bouncing all around with all those animals. All right? And what did he do? All right. Okay. He sent a wind and the waters began to go down. All right? When we feel like the world is spinning out of control and we have absolutely no idea what's going on around us, remember, God remembers us. How many days did it take for the waters to go down enough for the ark to come to rest on the mountains of Ararat? Okay, go back in verse 3. 100 more 50 days. So we're over 340 days now. Okay? So it all started on the 17th day, as Barbara said, the 17th day of the second month. Now we are on the 17th day of the 7th month. That's 5 months. How much more time was needed for the water to recede enough to see the tops of the mountains, according to 8:5? The 10th month. Right, the first day of the 10th month. After 40 days, what does Noah do in verses 6 and 7? Open the window and, all right, and what did the raven do? Okay. It just kept going out every day. I guess maybe he was sending it out, and it just kept coming back. Because why? Why'd it come back? Yep, there was no place for him to land but back in the ark. Okay? What bird does Noah send out next in verse 8? He sent out a dove. All right? What does the dove find in verse 9? Yeah. Okay. The dove found absolutely no place to rest its feet. It still could not find a place to perch. But I love that verse 9. How does the dove end up back in the ark? Yeah, yeah. That thing perched right on Noah's hand, came right in. It says Noah brought it back to himself in the ark. All right? I guess after 300 and some days together, you kind of get a little friendly there with those. You have a friendship with those birds and the animals and so on. I'm sure they did. What happened 7 days later, according to verses 10 and 11? Now, Dave, what happened this time? All right, he brings back a freshly plucked olive leaf. All right? And then what happened 7 days after that? The dove did not come back at all. It found a place to make its nest. All right? On what day does Noah remove the covering from the ark? So 1 year, just a little shy of 1 year, Noah gets to take the cover off the ark. Wow. Can you imagine what that was like? Get a breath of fresh air. Woo! To see the sky. All right? However, they still had to wait until when? Oh, they had to keep waiting until what? Well, before that. Until the ground was completely dry. Oh, Lois is reading ahead. All right? So they were in the ark from the 17th day of the 7th month until the 27th day of the 2nd month of the next year. And I noticed when I read over it again, I had forgot of the next year. 71, thank you. What does the Lord smell in 21? He smells a pleasing aroma. There again, in the sacrifices, when God talks about the sacrifices that he requires, he talks about the pleasing aroma that goes to heaven every time there is a sacrifice made. This is the first mention of that here. Now, when we studied this before in the Camel's Knees, I mentioned the fact that we lived right by the sand spring, and I know what it was like to smell the wonderful smell of the meat cooking. That was a pleasing aroma, if you like meat cooking, okay? Of course, there are other parts of that sacrificial part that might not have been so sweet smelling, but to the Lord, that sacrifice was a pleasing aroma. Noah had done everything God had asked him to do. He had persevered. He had hung in there. He didn't try to get out of the ark too soon. He did everything God told him. All right? What does God promise will never happen again in verse 21? Okay. Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every what? Okay. Even though their heart is evil beyond anything, he knows that. I will never curse the ground again. Never again will I what in verse 22? I'm sorry, go back to 21. Never again will I destroy all living creatures. All right? As long as the earth endures, what will happen in verse 22? Seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. It will never cease. No matter how evil man gets this time, it will never cease. All right? In Genesis 9:1, we see God doing what for Noah and his sons? He blessed Noah and his sons, giving them what directive? Apparently, even at this point, Noah does not have grandchildren. As we've heard over and over again, Noah, his sons, his wife, their wives. That's all we've heard. Okay, obviously, if you know anything about the story, we know grandchildren come for Noah after this. All right? Who entered the ark? Whoa, turn the wrong page. What will the animal's attitude be toward humans from now on in verse 2? Yeah, the fear and dread of you will fall on the beasts of the earth and on the birds of the sky and every creature that moves along the ground. They were friends maybe in the ark, but no more. The animals will now fear the humans. Okay? Contrast with the attitude with the one that we just talked about in Genesis 8:9 when he reached his hand out and he pulled the dove back in. Okay? It's now going to change. All right? Now, notice what it says in verse 3. Okay. Just as I gave you green plants before, guess what? Now you get to move up in the world. You get to eat meat now. Yummy. I'm so glad. Okay? But what are we not to eat? No rare steaks. The blood cannot be in there. And I know one man that he will not eat it if he might put it back on the grill if there's any blood in it. All right? The life blood cannot be in it. All right? What will the consequences, for what will God demand in accounting in verse 5? And I will demand an accounting from each human being. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being. What will the consequences be of shedding human blood? Okay. Why? That's my other favorite word. Why? Because why? In what? Okay. Because man is made in God's image, he considers it an offense to him if someone takes another life. Again, this concept brings the question, what would happen if we were to view every person, and I added there in my scribbles, born and unborn, as made in the image of God, because they are. What does God say he's going to do for Noah and his descendants in verse 9? Okay, declaring another covenant. All right, he kept his first promise. I'll keep you and your family and all the animals alive. He kept that covenant. Now I'm going to make another covenant. What does God promise he will never do again in verse 11? Okay, I'm never going to wipe out the entire world with a flood. Okay? What sign does God give to confirm this covenant in verse 13? I have set my rainbow, my bow in the clouds, and it will be a what? Between me and the earth. It doesn't say between him and Noah. It says between me and the earth. All right? Who will see the bow in the sky and remember the covenant? According to verses 14 to 16. Exactly. The rainbow was more about him than us. He says, whenever I bring clouds on the earth and the rainbow appears, I will remember my covenant between me and you. Never again will all the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears, I will see it. That's God talking. I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind on the earth. He made the covenant with all the earth, not just Noah. Everything, everyone. All right? So now let's go back and complete the last section. Is there anything you learned that you want to share with us today? The first time I found out that they had been in that ark for over a year, I can remember doing an activity in children's church once where I said, what do you think they did? And the kids had such hilarious answers, what they did for over a year in New York, Played games, of course, Like I said, I have no idea if they even had light. They had to have had some kind of light, I guess. I don't know. That's what I don't know. That's one of the things I want to know. Did they have light? I don't have any idea. We'll never know. Well, I guess eventually after the 150, the days, well, maybe after the 40 rains, the sun would have come out again. Even though the flood waters would have been there, maybe the sun, and they could have seen some light somehow. True, and it needs some air. Lots and lots of air. All right? Anything else you learned? Anything you want to share that you learned? No. It made to the specific, the largest a wooden vessel could be and remain afloat. And I learned that it wasn't a boat, that it had no steering, that it just floated. It just went wherever God told it to go. Yeah, I think it did. I think they separated some animals and so on. Yeah. The diagrams show rooms and so on. This one doesn't, but other ones do. exactly. It would the provisions would have lasted to that very last day, and yeah. And who wants this last apple and grape? Are you kidding? I'm going out for the fresh stuff here. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, Becky says the grape was a raisin, so yeah. So, I am sure there are more life lessons than could ever be recounted, but let's share a few. In a world that had never known rains or floods, God tells Noah that he's going to bring so much water that the whole earth and everything in it will be destroyed. Yet, what does Noah do? Everything that God commanded it, so did he. That was a King James version I learned a long time ago. In an area far removed from any large water source, God instructs Noah to build a vessel of mammoth proportions with only 8 people, and like I said, I included the women, in the construction crew. Yet, what do Noah and his family do? Everything God commanded them to do. No, I don't know what tools they would have had. I mean, they may have taken. I mean, they would have had something. They would have had to have something to cut, those type of things. That I mean, they've had to have come up with that somehow. But anyway, unless they incorporated the beavers and all that stuff, help them get this all cut up. You want to be safe, get in the ark. Well, you better cut down these many trees. I don't think it worked that way. But anyway, do what? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, they might have been different beavers then too. Who knows? All right. Who actually put Noah and his family in the ark? God. He's the one that shut the door. Sometimes, or maybe especially, when we are in the center of God's will, right where He has put us, things get a little wild and crazy, maybe dark and smelly. However, never forget that God remembers where He put you and why you are there. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And those exact words are repeated 4 times. We've already talked about if something's repeated more than once in Scripture, you had better what? First, you better do what? Pay attention. Then, remember. And of course, there are other ways He words it too, like Matthew 28:20, I believe it is, that go ye into all the world, and I am with you always. Even to the end, that's another way of saying, I will never leave you or forsake you. I will be with you always. Okay, so it's in there more than 4. All right? God doesn't condemn without giving a way to salvation. We are not told anything about the circumstances surrounding the building of the ark. But we can be sure the people of the area noticed. They had to. And I am sure Noah and his family explained what was about to happen. I mean, I'm sure they had people going, what are you guys doing? What is this all about? Yeah, right. I mean, let's face it. What's happening today? All right? And sadly, we know that no one but the animals heeded their warnings. And sadly, it sounds so much like our world today. When we think of biblical patience, who usually comes to mind? Job. And I'm not discounting his patience by any means. He lost everything except his loving wife. However, we must not forget the patience Noah demonstrated. To be given the blueprints of a never-ever-before-seen vessel, to listen to rain falling for 40 days and nights and water sloshing around and not knowing what is going on, a whole brand new phenomenon never experienced before. To live in a vessel with animals everywhere for over a year with all the sounds and smells had to be nerve-wracking. Let alone who knows what his sons, his wife, and their wives were doing. What faith and patience Noah demonstrated. Any other life lessons that you would like to share? Well, for next week, read Genesis 10 and 11 and pages 20 to 23 in your student book. And may God be with you as you consider what God may be calling you to do. Any questions or anything you want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, science does not dispute the fact that there was a great flood. And almost every culture has a great flood of some kind. And let's face it, if you look at the earth, it looks like it was all just one big piece of land, and now it's all separated because it looks like a big puzzle you could put together. And a lot of people believe that the earth was separated then during the great flood, which would make sense, especially based on next week's lesson. I always give them a little teaser about what's coming up next week. Nah. Nah. Yeah, we do. Yeah, let's hope not. No, we don't want to cover the mountains, that's for sure. He said, that's right. He said he would not destroy the earth, the entire earth. He might destroy little pieces of the earth, and he doesn't do it. It's the sinful world the way it is. So. All right, Mr. West. Thank you, sir.